How to process emotions. So first of all, we need to understand what emotions are. Emotions are simply energy in motion. So you go through different things in life and you have a currency of energy that flows through your body. And what happens is when you experience an experience that you're not fond of, doesn't feel good, doesn't feel nice, it could be anger, stress, anxiety, a particular traumatic event, whatever it may be, we don't want to feel that feeling. So instead of simply allowing it to flow through our body like we normally do, we hold it, we resist, we try and fight it and resist this emotion somehow. This is why to heal, one must release resistance. But we're going to get more into that in later videos or a different time, maybe touch upon it, like scratch the surface here. So you've now resisted this particular emotion. And so this emotion becomes stagnant. And you might hold it in different places of your body, which is where we gather tension. Everything is mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. So this tension you've now gathered is no longer this energy in motion. And so what will happen is the universe will keep triggering events over and over again to trigger that same anxiety or anger or whatever the feeling was. So you learn to release resistance and let it go. To do so, we have to feel the feeling. We have to release the feeling, right? I'm going to go more into how we do that in a moment. So just to clarify or summarize how emotions work and what emotions are, it's simply energy in motion. Energy in motion. And the emotions that are difficult to overcome become stagnant in certain physical places. This is why when you do things like yoga, it cleanses that and it removes that, and emotions can come to the surface. So this emotion that you're feeling or experiencing repetitively, whether it be anger, frustration, depression, anxiety, fear, and then there's positive ones too, positive feelings, right? But we'll focus on the negative ones now because it's how to process these emotions. What we want to do is, as this emotion comes to the surface, so let's say I have anger, I'm holding on to anger in my jaw. People like clench their jaw, right? Especially men, they clench. Women hold a lot of emotions in their hips. So you've triggered an event. Where the emotion is stored in the body isn't really relevant to this current video, but I'm just planting that seed because we're going to discuss it later on. You've released, not yet, we're getting there though. Emotion's been triggered. You're now feeling this pain, this anger, this whatever it may be. Now, the first thing you want to do is escape. Smoke a cigarette, smoke a zoot, drink some alcohol, play some PlayStation, read a book, call a friend, do something, like go somewhere. I'm just angry, let me go to the gym. We want to run away from this. And often we're so used to not feeling our emotions that we never process them properly. We're always in this constant state of escapism because we're always trying to run away. So we're always in the gym, then we're always reading, then we're at work, then we're here, then we're there, then we're having a cigarette, then we're having a glass of wine. Then there's always a routine of constant escapism to distract us from what we're truly thinking and feeling in that moment. This is called escapism. Again, we're going to talk about that much later on because that's a big topic in and amongst itself, escapism. So this emotion comes up, and instead of running away to your normal form of escapism, whatever that may be, you have to learn to sit with yourself and experience whatever it is that's going on without running from it, without trying to get rid of the emotion, without resisting that particular feeling that's come up in that particular moment. And so, you know, one of the ways you can do this is close your eyes and feel what you're feeling. Focus on the thoughts. The thoughts that you'll think about a particular event will perpetuate, I like that word, perpetuate the emotion. You'll think, this person has wronged me, now I'm angry. And then you feel the anger, and then you feel angry. And you're like, now I feel angry because this person has wronged me, and they wronged me like this. And the more you think the thought, the more you feel the emotion. The more you feel the emotion, the more you think the thought, and it becomes a cycle. You have to break that cycle. You do that by observing the thoughts, observing the emotions. You become the conscious observer. Realizing, once again, as I've spoken about, that you're not the ego. You're not the character that you're experiencing through. So if I'm Charles and I'm experiencing this anger, I'm not this body, I'm not this name, I'm not that emotion, these thoughts, they're not me. I'm the spiritual being perceiving through all of that. And so if I disidentify from all of those things and observe them as an external observer, which takes some time and practice to watch one's thoughts and emotions, one begins to form a healthy non-attachment to whatever that emotion is. We release resistance. We stop trying to fight against it, and we simply allow it to be. What then happens is that emotion moves, that energy begins to come back into motion, and we reintegrate the vibration of that particular thing, whatever it may be, and then we level up. Now, what happens is, just because you've done it once doesn't mean you're out the park, right? Doesn't mean like you've gone clear. You have to repetitively do this. Emotions it comes up like this, the resistance. You've been resisting a particular emotion and suppressing it from childhood. Most of our trauma or experiences that we're holding on to, that we struggle to let go of, come from childhood. Most, not all, but most. And then most of them are re-triggered, and we're re-experiencing them over and over again in our current reality. So this emotion from childhood has been revisiting you over and over again. You finally learn how to process emotions by watching Charles Million's video, right? You gain some understanding on it. You start to try and exercise this particular practice. So you then sit with the emotion as it comes up. It's very overwhelming. It's very difficult. And you need to do this with each emotion that comes up. Anxiety, anger, this, that, the other. Every single emotion that you're resisting, you're going to have to process and release. And you don't have to try and force this process. The universe will give you triggers, believe me. And the more present you become, and stop distracting yourself, like, I have to have music to go outside or to go to the gym, and I have to have a distraction for the mind. If you learn to just be present with yourself, present when you're cleaning, present when you're watching something, present when you're doing something, present just in presence itself without even doing anything, meditation, right? The more you become present and release this resistance, the easier this process becomes. So now this trigger has come up, you've decided to release it, and you sit with it. It's come up at like level 100 because you've been suppressing it this whole time. So it's like fucking, it's a lot, right? Believe me, I've gone through the process. I'm still going through the process, releasing resistance to certain emotions. I've nearly let go of so many of them as well. It's a liberating process. Painful, because you have to experience every single emotion that you're holding on to and resisting against, but liberating simultaneously. Like, you feel incredible afterwards, you know? And just like the way when you go to the gym and you tear the muscles and you feel awful, and then afterwards you get endorphins and you feel good, and then you get stronger and you feel good. Same principle. Now it comes up at level 100. When you release it, the universe will re-trigger that at a different time. So let's say you've gone through it, you've released that resistance, you calm back down, you've released some of it, you feel great. Because you can't release it all at once. It'd be way too overwhelming for the body. It doesn't work like that. The universe will then send you another trigger, and it comes back at 99.9%, then 99.8%, 99.7%, and I'm not going to do the whole thing right down to 0 because we'd be here for a minute. But every single time it comes back a little bit weaker, and it's a little bit easier to deal with every single time. But you almost don't notice this slight change. It's almost unnoticeable, just like when you grow, right? Especially as a child. Like, imagine the growth that you went from between 7 and 14. Every day you're growing, but you don't even notice the growth every day. But if you look back at a picture of 5 years ago, from 14 to 9, you're like, whoa, look how much I've grown, right? But every day that you was growing in that process, you didn't notice. It's the same thing here. Every time the resistance loops back around, you're not going to notice a massive difference. You're not going to notice a massive difference. You're going to think it's just as hard. But when you look back a couple of years ago, you're like, wow, I used to really struggle with anger, and now it's so much easier to process. So be patient with yourself. It's going to be difficult. There's going to be tears. There's going to be huge emotions, huge out expressions. It feels brutal. But I urge you to stick with this process. And if you fall back into escapism, it's okay. You'll go through that. You'll fall back into escapism. You'll come back into being present. You'll go into escapism. You'll go back and forth as you release this resistance until you learn to completely release it and be with oneself. So if you want more information on this and you want to learn a little bit more about how it works and to be guided through the process, send me a message. You know, my Instagram's @CharlesMillion. I do online video consultations on there. or you can email the email I'm using on here, which is millionsmessages@gmail.com. Feel free to ask me a question also if you want me to answer a question in a video. And like, comment, subscribe, share, all of that good contribution stuff, spreading the message to other people. And come down to one of my events. Obviously right now the whole world's on lockdown, but I'm going to be doing them online video calls, so come down to the next one as well. I'll put the link for that in this video. And when we're allowed to go back outside, come down to one of the physical events, and it'll be great to connect in person. Peace and love. I love you all.